Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for joining this live stream. In this stream, I'd like to talk about fake job adverts and crazy job requirements and just see where we go with. Also just finishing off actually on that is the number of interviews that particularly executives are required to go through these days. And a former colleague called me up a couple of days ago and said that he was just attending his 12th interview, for goodness sakes, for a job, and there's still more interviews to go. So how reasonable is it to expect someone to attend that many interviews, and is it really achieving anything or producing a better result than would otherwise be the case? Let's just have a look at that interviewing, job adverts, job advertising, and just examine some of the issues around that. I was picked up. Well, my interest was piqued in this as a little while ago. I just happened to answer the phone, and the recruiter called and said, "Are you looking for anybody?" And I'm like, "No." And there's a particular area of expertise that we're involved in. So he kept on going and said, "Look, if I got someone who was really, really good, really good, would you be prepared to look at their CV without any obligation?" Now, hardly anyone's going to say no to that, but how do we define good, and does that guy even know what good is? And I put that to him. I said, "Look, you don't really know anything about the business here, so how can you determine what's good or very good, and so on?" So he then wanted to go through quite a lengthy process of discussing the business and all the aspects of it. And I wasn't prepared to go into that. And I said, "Look, buddy, we're not looking for any of it. Thanks very much." Anyway, I'm doodling on the website, just looking at who else is active in the area that I'm in, and sure enough, this same recruiter's running an advert for clearly for my business or the business I'm involved in, and barely concealed. And so I called him and said, "Hey, buddy, I didn't give you permission to advertise a job, and I haven't said that I wanted you to do this or reached any agreement with you." So at first he tried to deny that it was there, just happened to be pure coincidence that it was in the same suburb and the same business and all that sort of thing. But I kept at him, as he say, he finally admitted it, and he said, "Look, that's how business is done, and you never know. I might get somebody good, and then you can have a look at them." Da, da, da. I said, no, buddy, you're advertising a job that doesn't exist. There are rules and laws about this sort of thing, and you're breaking them. And his attitude is very much, "Well, who cares?" And so I insisted that he take the advert down, and after some pushing and shoving, he did. So that sort of got me onto the thing. Well, how many fake adverts are actually on these job boards and job websites? And if I look at the various websites that I've had a look at, and I mentioned another video that I was looking at renting a beach house, holiday house over the summer holidays, and I was stunned at how many fake adverts were on those websites. So it sort of got me thinking that this is quite widespread, which must include employment or any website that purports to bring two parties together. That seems to be the issue there, or even selling goods online. I found them to be, from time to time at least, quite flaky, claiming to have it in stock and deliver in an hour, and as soon as you place the order, they say they don't have it or it's run out, that sort of thing. So coming to look at the job adverts now, the other side of the job adverts that I've sort of sat down and gone through quite a few is that they're citing qualifications for the job that are way beyond A, what's needed, and B, what they're prepared to pay for. So a job that just pays the average wage, and then they're wanting 1 or 2 degrees and a master's, or a PhD, or a degree and a master's and 10 years experience, and this sort of thing, and they're paying like $50,000. So it's crazy. Now, having worked in big organizations and having had to deal with HR departments, it's the case where the HR department will see it see the job in a very linear sense. So what tasks are to be performed in the job, and they'll break it down into each little task. and some of them are so crazy they'll even insist there has to be a degree for each task. So if you've got a job that has 10 tasks, or what HR believe 10 tasks, they will actually put out an advert saying that 10 degrees are required. That's how crazy they are. So this is something that HR departments, because they don't understand the job, they don't understand the business, they're just there as bureaucrats. That's really all they are, without understanding anything. They're just there to process the paperwork, and they go about it in a certain very bureaucratic way. So just looking at the HR department would sometimes come back to me and say, well, here's the advert, and I think, well, what are you talking about? 5 degrees and a master's and a PhD. Do you have any idea how old the person would need to be to have all those qualification experience? And they just look at me dumbfounded. Oh, what do you mean? What are you saying? They really had no grasp of the practical relevance of the issues here. Also, they come from a world where, and they're trained to think that each area of expertise, you must have a certification for it. Otherwise, how can you possibly know it? So they've got no concept of experience or anything like that, or knowledge, or people who are a quick study, or so. They've got no capacity to think outside of that very linear and simple sort of thought process. And I had a lot of trouble in the multinational firms dealing with HR departments that just couldn't get it, and you'd have to explain things many times before the penny would drop. But in the bigger firms, you have to go through them. You don't really have a choice. So coming back to the advert there, the recruiter putting the fake advert in there. But also there's adverts with say big organisations where they're doing project type work, and they've got in they think they're going to win a big project, so they work out all the people they're going to need if they win the project. So they'll then put out advertising for all those jobs, but they haven't won the project. They don't even know if they're going to win the project. But there's a number of other organisations also that are hoping to win the project, and they've also run adverts. Then again, this is for jobs that don't exist. Only one of them is going to win it, but 5 or 6 of them may be advertising 50 jobs apiece, for example. Then they give the jobs to their best mate recruiters, and then they advertise it. So then you've got several recruiters from each one. So you could have thousands of adverts running around the job boards for jobs that don't exist, and they're just collecting CVs and just wasting people's time. Now, there should be very, very severe, I believe, there should be very severe laws to clamp down on this sort of thing. Another guy in a big multinational firm, he's again a guy I know quite well, and he was saying how hard it is to hire people, particularly the more senior people, because there's a lot of folks in a matrix management situation that want to deal themselves into the game of interviewing a candidate, and so it takes time. Now, with American companies in particular, where they run on quarterly cycles and quarterly numbers and quarterly reporting to the stock market and so on, because of that, they have a situation where you get a headcount approval or approval to hire somebody in the budget approval, all that sort of stuff. But then there's there is a likelihood that as a few weeks before the quarterly numbers come in, that the accountants push the panic button, say, look, we're not going to make our numbers, or it's going to be a close run thing. And so suddenly the CEO and they'll panic and then put a hiring freeze on. Now, so what this guy does, he's like a divisional director. He gets he cultivates these junior naive kid type recruiters to go out and do his dirty work for him. So they run the advert. So they've got a bunch of CVs on standby. So as soon as he gets the nod on the budget and the headcount, then he's straight into those CVs, and they try and rattle them through as quickly as possible before the chance of a hiring freeze comes in. So they've usually got a couple of weeks after a couple of weeks from when the quarter starts to a few weeks before the quarter ends. So it's only 13 weeks. So they've got maybe 8 weeks in reality to start interviewing somebody, offer them the job, and have the letter of offer accepted and all that sort of thing. 8 weeks. Now, if you're going to interview somebody 10 or 15 times, and they've got to go to psych tests and that sort of thing, 8 weeks isn't very long. 8 weeks is you're really going hard at it to fit those interviews in the 8 weeks. So he takes the view, this guy takes the view that it's quite acceptable to put in fake adverts, because that's really the only way he can get around the limitations and the restrictions of the system he has to work with. So now on the other side, some organisations view that they want to appear that if they're they want to appear as if they're busy happening places. They're wow, we're hiring, we're going places, we're kicking ass. We're hiring hundreds of people, and boy, are we expanding, and get with our success story. We know how the world works, and that sort of stuff. And so they run all these fake adverts just to give the illusion that they're a kick-ass happening place, when in fact no job exists. So when you look at all the job adverts that are out there on the job boards, by my calculation, close to 50% are actually fakes. So there's a lot of people having their time wasted and having their, especially even going for interviews, having their time wasted, not only applying for the jobs, but also attending interviews. The other thing too, say with high tech jobs, I've noticed that adverts for, say, computer coders, the advert will say minimum 5 years experience required, but the computer coding program that they're using only came out 3 months ago. It's only been, its entire existence is 3 months old, but the HR department and the wags and the flunkies they don't know that, so they've got to have a minimum 5 years experience. So you look at these adverts and you say, gee, these people are amateurs. Now looking at the interviewing process, it used to be, certainly as I remember it years ago, and that the guys or the people that were interviewing you were somewhat expert at the job themselves, and they were hiring you. They knew what questions to ask. They knew how to judge your answers, whether you were serious or you're full of nonsense or something like that. So they had the expertise to ask the questions and realise how you would fit in, or where you would go in a business perspective. But that's changed. Most of the people that are out there seem to be bureaucrats, paper processors. They don't really know, so they're just box tickers, the same box tickers that go with gender and race quotas and this sort of thing. Most jobs are being reduced to, even quite senior jobs, reduced to a box ticking process. Doctors, for example, if you go into a doctor's surgery, the general practitioner, nearly all of them now, particularly the diverse range ones that are coming in now, they just stick to the box tick. That's all they do. They don't make any decisions. There's no analysis. There's no real understanding. It's just ticking the boxes, and that's how they get so many black and brown people into the roles. The days of the GP, the family doctor, and everything, who would analyse your health and make a variety. No, those days are gone. Those days are gone. They're just box tickers, and this is the same for hiring. So, when as a job candidate sitting in front of them, the interview room, that sort of thing, then what most of these people do, they don't understand what the person can do or the job they're required to do, what they need to do. They don't understand the difference between a capable and a non-capable person. All they can do is say, does this person have the degrees or the certifications or the masters or the PhDs? Did they or did they not work for a close competitor of ours in the same job, doing the same thing? And if they did tick, then you offer them the job. But outside of that box ticking, they don't really know what they're doing, which is why, or part of the reason at least, why the interview process takes so long, because there are too many people involved who don't know what they're doing. And because they don't know what they're doing, they're trying to make judgments around the delicacy of the power politics and all this sort of thing. Is this guy really good? Is he going to make me look bad? And those sorts of considerations, rather than can the guy do the job or not? Will he deliver value to the company and the shareholders and the customers and the stakeholders and so on and so forth? So those are some of the issues that go and swirl around this the whole sort of employment and hiring process. Just coming back to the HR departments for a moment there, this sort of this makes the situation even more difficult because these people are they're no geniuses in HR, certainly not that I've met, and so they make things much harder. But they're also very power hungry and prestige hungry, and this makes also just adds another overhead to the process. And about 10 years ago, I guess now, a guy who I've worked with tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Do you want to come and work for me?" And he's like an executive vice president, and he's waving a VP's job in front of me. So it's a pretty senior role, paid quite well. And I was about to get involved in a business venture, so I kind of was umming and ahhing about even going along, but I quite like the guy, and it's better to stay on the good side of people like that. So I thought, well, I'll go along and see what it is. But he said, okay, well, someone will call you. So I assumed there'd be quite a senior person would call, and we'd sit down as senior executives together and talk about the business issues and what was to be done and that sort of thing. Instead of that, I got a call from some teenage punk out of with snot-nosed attitude, by the way, out of HR, who going to come in for a test. Well, who does she think she's talking to? She's got to be 16 years old, and sounded like AOC actually in the way she talks. But anyway, that was it. So I come along, and then there's the HR woman that I saw was maybe 21, 22. Again, pretty snotty attitude, and then had no idea what questions to ask. Could only tick the boxes and act tough, which she overdid by far. You may be going to be a vice president here, but let me tell you, I'm one tough chick. Don't you mess with me. You're a punk. You're a punk. Anyway, the next interview is meant to be with I think it was the HR director or the vice president of HR or something, and I don't know what else we're going to go over again. She's not going to know anything or know what to ask or even understand the job. So I called the guy and said, look, this is really not working out. He sort of begged me to persevere with it and said, this is how things are these days. Everything's bureaucratic. Human HR departments are just all over everything. So you kind of have to go along with it. But if you can take the pain on that side of it, then there is blue sky on the other side. So, and I wasn't that keen to begin with. So I thought, no, I'm really not prepared to put any more time into this. Now, when you're sort of interviewing senior guys who really know what they're doing and they're experienced, have got all the credentials and have the achievements, all those sorts of things, then you don't put them through that bullshit. What does it achieve for anybody? It doesn't achieve anything. It was almost like it was a process that would a way of sort of micro socializing you into their micro box ticking bullshit culture. It was almost like it was something for that. You've got to suffer a bit of humiliation before we're satisfied. You've got the right attitude for us. It's almost like that, which I thought was a bit strange and again quite pointless. If it's somebody maybe fresh out of college or something, there's possibly some merit in that. But it's ridiculous to get someone who's 2021 with no experience of the world or job experience, work experience, and who's dumb to boot, and to get them to interview someone in their mid-40s who's got a lot of experience, credentials, and qualifications. That really doesn't work. It's quite silly, and again comes back to the number of interviews that particularly executive people are put through. So that's my take on things. That's a bit of a rounded look at that subject. And put your comments down below. I'd be interested to see them, particularly on this one. And you've been with Tacitus today, and thank you for listening.